Women on a Green Mission. Follow along as two friends document their unfurling permaculture journeys.
Join our chats each week where we'll be sharing how we and others apply permaculture to our gardens and daily life.
We're no experts. We're at the start of our journey, fumbling our way to a greener life. We'd love your company along the way.
Hi, Joe.
Hey, my God, it's been ages, hasn't it?
It's been so long since we hit record.
Mind
And
you,
we
if
wanted
you
to-
and I don't chat or do something like every other day, it's like, shit, we haven't spoken for ages.
And we wanted a 4-week break. We would have gone so crazy.
It's like we're just getting itchy for it. It's like I actually looked last night. I was panicking, so I'm like, I've missed something. Like in our little list, because we've got our little list of things that we have to do, and I'm thinking, oh no, I've missed something for sure. Like it's been way too long, and then I looked, I'm like, no, we're on track. It just seems a long
2
time.
weeks. Yeah. Oh gosh.
Oh,
and so what have you been up to lately?
Oh wow, we've had. What have we been up to? What have we been up to? What have we done?
You just told me you booked into something pretty cool.
I booked into something. Yeah, I just had a total brain fart then. So we've booked into what's it called? The Small Landholders long lunch at Tocal. Matthew Evans from Fat Pig Farm is going to be there. So yeah, Anthea from Maplewood, messaged me. I'm having a great brain day today. My brain's just not happy. I didn't have a coffee, I think. Anthea from Maplewood messaged me earlier and she's like, oh, there's only a few tickets left. We're going. So I just jumped on and grabbed them and I went, oh, what a great opportunity. So I think that's happening on the 1st of June.
Yeah, I'm going to see if there's someone somewhere local for me to come do one. It sounds really good. I need to get onto Eventbrite more and look at the stuff because there's some really good stuff on Eventbrite if you kind of sift through it all.
There really is. And I think also community pages, like I know there's a Newcastle and Hunter events page on Facebook or events group, whatever it is. They put some good stuff out there too. I haven't checked them out for a while, but they're always pretty active on stuff that's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what about you? What have you been up to?
Oh, us. We've so it's our 3rd or 4th week on our block now. So we're well and truly settled in and we've met all our neighbours or most of them. We've finally got water connected so we can take long showers. We've just been slowly chipping away. So we've got plans. We've met with the draftsman and he's reviewing the plans from our feedback. We've just engaged a certifier, so the certifier's on board. We had an electrician, an excavator guy, the wastewater guy come out, arborist to fix some trees that are really dead and dangerous. It's all happening. And we've got a massive pile of mulch now, which is great because the arborist chipped everything. There were pieces of wood that I probably couldn't get my hands around. And this machine just and mulched the whole thing. I didn't realize. I thought, the branches and the leaves and stuff. But this whole tree just went through this fucking machine and got mulched. I was like, just
chews it up. I know they're pretty gnarly machine. I mean, it's the sort of machine that you want to know what you're doing to operate it. This is not your backyard piece of kit, is it? Like it's pretty dangerous.
So we have this massive pile, pardon me, of mulch now in the yard, and then across the road from us is all a subdivision that hasn't happened yet, and they just come and slash it. So we've been collecting all the straw from that, and we've been tipping our wee from the van because we have a separating toilet onto the hay to try and start activating that, or not the hay, the dead grass. So we're doing that, and just collecting heaps and heaps of seaweed. So we're just kind of getting everything ready, which it's probably a good segue into what we're talking about today, for our autumn garden. So that's pretty much what I've been focusing on.
Oh, I love the fact that you're able to just pop down and collect some seaweed and add that, because seaweed's so good. It is got so many benefits for the garden and the soil and the microbes and there, thousands.
It's so funny though. I go down, I collect seaweed, and without fail, like at least two people are like, "What are you doing? Is that for your garden?" And then we get into this conversation about seaweed in the garden. And now so we were just doing it in tubs before, but now our trailer's here, so I got the trailer now and fill the whole trailer with seaweed. I said to Oscar, I need like a shirt that says "Crazy Seaweed Lady" or
Yeah,
something like
you
that to
do.
get made up, because I literally just walk on the beach and this beach is like notorious. Like you can Google it and there's newspaper articles about how bad the weed is and how the tourists complain in summer. And so there is so much weed. I'm not taking more than my fill, that's for sure. And yeah, it's amazing because I just get so much seaweed and we're just laying it all down, and some of it's like half decomposed already by the time I pick it up. Because it really stinks there when it gets
Yeah.
hot. It's
Yeah.
gross. So
So people
I'm
know when
doing,
you're going past, like your trailer's just wafting
yeah,
through like all the
but I'm
community.
doing the tourists in the neighbourhood a favour by collecting all the seaweed at our local beach. So,
Yeah, multi-purpose. Like,
yeah,
yeah, you seaweed for you, you're performing a community service, and you're now known as the local crazy seaweed lady.
exactly. And our local tip has a reuse centre, like a really good reuse centre. So we've been going and collecting some stuff like star pickets and some hardwood to start making garden
Awesome.
beds. And they had a Dutch oven there the other day that I bought to start doing sourdough in.
Oh,
And they're so good. They're like, oh, that pile of stuff, oh, $10. Like, it's so good. It's one of those old school reuse centers. So yeah, we
that'd
go
be
and check that out
amazing.
every
It's
day,
amazing
every
what
week. Sorry.
people, it still blows me away. And I know that, what they say, one man's junk is another, well, one woman's junk is another woman's
Mm,
treasure, but it still blows me away the things that people offload
sure.
that they,
Yeah.
I don't know, everyone has different scenarios and situations, but there's some stuff and I'm like, you just threw that out. Like you didn't give it
I
away or
think,
repurpose or like you just
yeah,
ditched it.
I think some of it too must just be people run out of time to sell or give things away, or someone doesn't rock up. Like
Yeah.
we got there the other day, and you know how you get drawers custom made for the back of your car for like
Yep.
camping and four-wheel driving. There was a whole thing of those that someone's just taken out and put there, and I was like, oh my god. So it must just be, yeah, people run out of
Wow.
time or they're moving or whatever, so like I'll just take it to the reuse center knowing it'll get used. There's about 50 good nick wheelbarrows there. um, they have so much stuff. They've got a lot of stuff, and they separate it and they actually sort it out really well. So you go in, there's like a tool section, there's like a gardening section, there's a scrap metal
Oh,
area, pallets, milk crates. There's like a place you can go and drop off all your batteries and stuff. So they kind of do the recycling there as well, and then they're actually connected to a company that's an organics company, so you can buy mulch there and sand and all of that. So it's kind of everything in the one place. It's a bit expensive to buy their actual organic stuff, but
yeah.
it's convenient, so I can see why a lot of people do it. But yeah, it's a cool little place. You have to come check it out when you come up.
I will. I was thinking, oh, we'll
Yeah.
take the trailer. And then I'm like, no, we can't sleep in the trailer. We'd have to still take the caravan. But we could fit a lot in that caravan if we had to,
Just take a tarp and put it all on your bed while you're traveling.
Like it'll be fine. Let's throw a wheelbarrow on the bed or put something on
Yeah,
the
and like
table.
plastic pots for planting and seed raising trays that are there, and so much stuff. So
I
much
need
stuff.
I need to get around and have a look a bit more. Mind you, I shouldn't be looking at anything at the moment. We've got to do a big clean out, which is also a good segue into what we're talking about today in things to do in autumn, because that's part of what I'm doing. I'm cleaning out my storage areas. And if anyone's listening rather than watching, those storage areas are in air quotes because they've been
Mm,
spots where we've put stuff with intention of doing something with it in the very near future, and that near future has drawn out considerably. So we need
yeah,
to do some consolidating. We're not getting rid of anything. We just need to sort and consolidate, and definitely like clean out areas because yeah,
yeah,
snakes are just loving. They are little areas
yeah,
that we haven't had a chance to clean out, and it's just
yeah,
time. It's time to get
yeah.
to it.
So yeah,
So
that's what this episode is all about. Our autumn gardens, what we're doing to prep for autumn, and the things on our to-do list to prep for winter during autumn. So
and
yeah,
so
what's
what's
top
the
of your
top of your
list?
so the top of my list? Well, I've got my little list that I've written down of things that I do this time of year. Some of these I'm
Mm.
doing more than others. So
Yep.
last year for me was a huge seed starting. So
Yep.
I was putting seeds in, I was seed saving, I was putting seedlings in. So that was all about the seeds for me last year. This year, not so much. I've actually decided that with the projects that we've got going on, that I'm kind of just going to let the gardens go over autumn and winter. I'm not going to worry about growing brassicas for us.
Yep.
Um, I don't, again, you've only got so much time and bandwidth and energy to be able to do things. And I just went, no, this year I can't focus on that. I've got other projects I've got to focus on. But that's what I would normally be doing in the garden.
Okay.
But I mean, there's a couple of different things there that we can unpack. So let's
Yep.
start with saving seeds. Do you want to talk about that? Because I know that we're going to do a little episode on that later.
I have no seeds to save currently. I did try and rescue. I did try and rescue. So like where we are, there's all these little pups of like acacias and things popping up. So I have been trying to dig those up because a slash is just going to come through and cut them anyway. And I tried to rescue them and put them in some soil and like water them. But natives aren't stoked at being transplanted. But I thought, you know what, I'll give it a crack because it's free and it's just going to take a bit of my time. So yeah, they didn't make it. um, but it was worth a shot.
It's
But
worth a
yeah,
try.
I'm
Yeah.
not seed saving a lot. And to be honest, I don't actually know that much about seed saving because like I do know that it can get contaminated or cross, with pumpkins and different things, and some things you can save seed with, and so I don't actually have all that much knowledge about seed saving and what you can and can't and what will get, mixed up and made into a hybrid, and so it's something I'd love to learn more about because some seeds aren't cheap. Um, but
Absolutely.
yeah, and I
Yeah, well,
want to
that'll
let
be
things go to seed as well to provide more habitat and especially pollen for the pollinators in that kind of in between season where there's not as many flowers around. So yeah.
so slight diversion on pollinators. What we found this year is that our production was down. So, our pollination of our melons, our pumpkins, our cucumbers, significantly down. And that was really interesting observation because obviously we were in the red zone for
Mm,
varroas, so we lost our hive and obviously everyone else around us did. And I decided this year not to do native bees. So I went and did the course with Steve and learnt all
yeah.
about them. But just again, time, energy, bandwidth, I just made the decision that this summer was not going to be the summer for us to introduce a native beehive. That's going to be for next year. But
Mm,
I can see like the huge impact that having, the European bees euthanized and having all of those
wow.
hives taken out of the system,
Mm,
how much of a huge impact. But it also, what it said to me about our property is that we need to make sure that we're providing more habitat for native pollinators. We need to be
mm,
focusing on that. So it's actually been really interesting for us to be able to shift our thoughts about what we're planting and what we're planning
yeah.
for. So
Yeah.
total segue, but I just found it really interesting. I was just looking at it going, wow, this really highlights what we haven't got here as opposed to what we have and where those holes are. Yeah, really interesting. Um,
Well, I love that power of observation that to really notice those little nuanced things that you're not getting as much production, and the effects that little changes that you
mm.
make have in your garden.
Yeah, it was really interesting. So part of our planning, and this is something that we're doing over autumn as well, is planning for winter. I'm sort of jumping ahead a little bit, but so yeah, part of our winter plan is for me to sit down and put a list together of native species that are endemic to our area that are going
Yeah.
to bring in native pollinators and support native pollinators throughout the year.
Mm,
So that was, I mean, it's something that obviously we know, but until you see the effects and you really start to observe, that's sort of when you go, oh, okay, I really understand the importance. It's not so
mm,
much that, I should be doing this. It's a necessity to be able to support the system. So yeah, that was
yeah.
a really cool observation, but yeah, slight digression.
Yeah, we've got a little local nursery, and they only do like super local natives, which is really cool. But the other thing about that is that in Europe, which isn't the same season as us, but they do a no mow May because they want to try and keep all
Oh,
the meadows and fields with like
they do,
clover
yeah.
and because it's that for them it's that in between season where there's not a lot of flowers, everything's already gone to seed, so they can't, there's not enough in the garden and there's not a lot of bigger trees to support it, so they do a no mow May and they encourage everyone not to mow their lawns to help bridge that season.
Oh, I think that's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah,
And that
yeah, it's
everyone's on
cool.
board as opposed to this, yeah, council push of you can only have your lawn 10
Mm,
centimeters long or, yeah, we had that
mm.
conversation last night at the pub of with someone that, yeah, had the tap on the door to say, sorry, but your lawn's too long. It's the middle of winter,
Really?
but your lawn's too long and you need to mow it. So,
Oh
yeah,
my god, I've
yeah.
never heard of that happening before.
Yeah, so some councils are really particular about it, and it depends, I suppose, where you are and who your neighbours are. If
Yeah,
you've got someone that's going to,
that's
get bent out of
crazy.
shape by its long. I mean, there's some of ours that we intentionally leave long, for like,
Totally.
like no moo may say that fast 5 times. But yeah, like some of it just we just haven't gotten around to mowing whatever. But
Yeah.
some of it's really intentional that we leave
Yeah.
because we want things to have their full life cycle and go to seed. So,
Yeah. Or
because we
like
want
you
to be
might,
able to save seeds or we want to be able
yeah.
to just have that full life cycle.
Or if you're even wanting to make like a big batch of hot compost to let it go long until you're ready to cut it so you've got your greens ready.
Exactly.
Like there's lots of reasons to let your lawn grow. I've never heard of that. That's crazy.
It's nuts, isn't it?
Crazy,
Yeah.
crazy. But so I'm not seed saving, but I have collected a whole heap of seeds
I think we need to start
from the
a little group.
internet.
I think we need to support, like, start a support group of, Seed Savers Anonymous because some of us do
Mm,
have a problem.
yeah.
My hand is up for
But
that too.
it's interesting though because there's a really cool website that I've been using where I buy my seeds and they're actually quite cheap and they were recommended by someone. They apparently got a really good germination rate. Is it the seed? I'll get this right the first time. The
Seed
seed collection.
collection. Yep.
Yes,
Yep.
I would say collective, but it's seed collection, and you can put in your climate and the month, and it tells you what you can plant.
Yep.
And then you can filter it with vegetables, fruits, flowers, etc. So I've been doing that, and the Diggers Club do something similar. So I've been looking at those two websites to see, because I'm in a subtropical climate now, it's a bit different. We get a lot of
Hmm.
humidity, it's warmer for a lot longer, we get a lot milder winters than we would be getting in Newcastle. And I was surprised, like, that it's saying I can still sow things like a cucumber and tomatoes, which I'm a bit
Hmm.
hesitant to do, thinking will they make it? And everyone says in summer they get really bad fungal
They get
issues
hammered.
with those
Yeah.
plants. So, I mean, we might have a bit of a later season for those vegetables. So I'm going to give that a shot. I don't have faith that it will happen, but I'm going to give it a shot.
But it's good to
Um,
give that a go and then observe
yeah,
what
yeah,
comes out of that because what we found here as well. So even though technically we're well, we are in the Hunter, so we're quite close to Newcastle, but we find here we get smashed in summer as well. So our tomatoes, like talk about tomatoes, don't do terribly well in the middle of summer, but just on the shoulders they do really well. So at
mm,
the start of the season and towards the end of the season. But right in the middle, they just get, it doesn't matter what we do. Like the only way we could really protect them is to put them in, a shade house, or
yeah,
really plant them in very specific little microclimates that are going to protect them. Like there's no way we can just sort
yeah.
of put them out in the open. They just get hammered. So,
Mm.
so I think you'll be surprised.
So yeah, I'm going to kind of try and do a very broad range of things and have a bit of an experimental year and just see what works
Ooh.
because yeah, I don't know, like it's all new for me. So I guess the main thing we're doing at the moment is prepping beds. Like
Yep.
that's the main thing that we're focusing on. We've got shit soil, not shit soil, we've got clay, and because it hasn't had any moisture because they've taken all the trees away to clear it for housing, and the kangaroos are on it all the time, eating it down. And the rain doesn't seem to be soaking in very much. So the top layer is just hard and it's just sealed itself off pretty much, and all the water just runs off into the drains. So I tried forking it. There's places I can't get a shovel or a fork into the ground because it's that hard. So we've actually just been getting our grey water from the van and just changing where it's running off each day,
Yeah.
especially when we do loads of laundry, just to wet the soil and to start doing that. I'm considering planting cover crops in some areas, but I don't know if they'll even take. Um, and so, yeah, we're just pretty much collecting lots of seaweed, hay, manure, and just layering it to do our hedge, which will kind of be a mix of natives and some edibles along the outside. And then I've just started marking out roughly where our kitchen garden will be. And I'm going to start doing the same there and just starting to do some culture style beds. So for me, it's just a lot of soil prep. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I really, really want to plant garlic and a big crop of it to try and sell locally. So looking at where the best spot to do that is. I know it doesn't need to be a lot of soil for garlic, so maybe just doing like a Charles Dowding kind of no dig cardboard and then 10 centimeters or so of really good quality topsoil and compost.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't got our own compost yet, so a lot of this is going to have to be ordered in. So we're kind of conscious as well about spending too much money
Mm-hmm.
on
Yeah,
that.
because
We want to
it
try and get
can
as
get.
much as we can. Yeah. Well, so far everything's been free. All the manure, all the seaweed, all the hay, all the wood chip. Before we had our trees chipped, there was a lady down the road and she was getting rid of all of her wood chip and had been sitting there and it was beautiful. It was all like,
Oh,
fungus is
so
starting to grow on
yeah,
it and there was ants living
nice.
in there. And so yeah, we're just kind of everything's been free so far, but we will need to buy in a mix of topsoil compost, a quarter mix of something. We'll mix it all together as our topsoil for our hedge area, and we probably will need something as well for the veggie gardens. There's a really good brand of bagged. I think it's called Living Compost. I have to double check
Mm-hmm.
that. I'll put it in the show notes, and I'll probably do pocket planting with that because I don't want to use really high quality stuff on the whole bed because it's just going to cost us
Yeah,
too much money.
and you don't need to either. Like pocket
True.
planning will do exactly what you need it to do. And
Yeah.
I mean, even with your when you're talking about cover crops, because that's something that that we do. We do cover crops. Well, I call it like either a
Yeah.
green manure cover crop, or we use it for
I
chicken forage as
I
well.
just don't know
But
how to get it in the ground when it's clay though. Like, do you have any advice for that? Because you're on clay, but I guess you've already planted stuff there before, or
so yeah, we
yeah.
yeah, we're on clay. We're not. It's not super hard. Some places were, and I just had to get the fork in. So just really like even just like the tip of the fork in ever so
Mm,
slightly, and just open the soil, open the soil, open the soil, and
yeah.
then just wet it down. You know, leave it for a couple of days, and then do it again, and then as we went through doing it that way, then we just broadcast like handfuls. Like I overseeded big time a lot of
Yeah.
the areas just in the hope that anything would take. But then the key is, yeah, keeping the water up to it, making sure that
Mm,
you've got you've got the water there to be able to keep up with that because that was our downfall. We went to all this effort and like it's a big effort to fork open, rock hard clay.
mm,
But to do that and then to get things to germinate and then go,
mm.
oh, like I'll just sort of be a little bit slack and I won't worry about watering today. Yeah, that didn't work. You've got to stay on
We'll
top of
see.
your water, but it can definitely work.
Until we get our fence up too, the roos are just going to trample it or eat it as well. So I've kind of really had to hold
Yeah,
off on
okay.
doing a lot of things until our fence goes up, and the fence isn't going to stop them completely, but it will discourage them. And when our dog's in the yard, I think he'll discourage the roos coming in so much. Hopefully, so yes, cover cropping. And I think in terms of cover crops, something I learnt from doing Brett's course was to do like taproot cover crops,
Mm-hmm.
which he
Yeah.
talked about. So doing things like daikon radish and other radishes and what else was there?
And then there's
Um,
parsnips. They
there was
usually, yeah,
the
carrots and parsnips usually like a sandy soil. Don't even attempt them in clay.
yeah.
Don't even waste your time.
Comfrey. Comfrey has a big taproot
Comfrey,
too.
yeah.
So all those
Dandelion,
things, yeah,
yeah.
planting all of those things in, and then just chopping the chops off and not pulling them out and letting them just in situ
Mm-hmm.
compost essentially and rot down, to create those air pockets. So I was like, maybe we need to do that in some of our garden beds, but
And
I'm
that
kind of
coupled
impatient.
with
I
then
just want to
making
get
sure that
things
you're
in the
planting
ground.
something that's going to give you lots of biomass as well. So lots of big
Yes.
leafy greens, fast growing greens. So things like your mustards, brassicas, things like that that are going to provide you with that mass.
Well,
So
that's
that
my
will be
problem at
really
the
good too.
moment. Yeah, that's my problem at the moment. So I'm going to do our compost and I've got all these browns, but I don't actually have a lot of greens, because we don't have any bushy things that I can cut down. Like we don't have any pigeon pea. We don't have any grass that's long enough. It's all kind of spindly grass
Hmm.
that's already kind of half brown already. So yeah, I'm kind of really struggling with my greens at the moment. We've got a bokashi bin that we got, so I'm
Yeah.
breaking that down in prep to use, and I'm going to go get some coffee from the local coffee shop. But yeah, in terms of like grass clippings and things like that, I don't have a lot. I don't have any, spent pumpkins. I don't have any nasturtiums. I don't have any of that mass or
So
weeds or anything to put.
what about speaking to your local cafes, your local IGAs, and things like that, and getting their food waste? And like with the IGA, I know with here,
Yeah,
I can go down and get like their spoilt um, food, so they'll bundle all that up for me and give me
yeah.
boxes
I mean,
of
we've
that.
we've got lots of our own food waste, and I'm conscious of it being too sloppy because I'm putting too much food in there. I was trying to get more diversity by trying to get some other greens in there, which is why we're doing the bokashi, so it's already pre-fermented and broken down, so it's not
Hmm.
so sludgy as a green. But yeah, I was kind of, and like we have the seaweed, but again, like that could go a bit sludgy if we're not careful. So yeah,
I think
trying to
once
find
it's
more greens. It
mixed
should
up
be
with all your
right.
browns as well, yeah. I think
Okay.
it's just playing with like what you've got and then, working out what your consistency looks like and
Yeah.
keeping an eye on the temperature. And if it's going up too quick, you know that you've got too much nitrogen in there. Or if it
Yeah.
is too sloppy, you know that, you've got too much moisture in there and adding those browns back in that's going to absorb
Yeah.
some of that moisture and
Yeah.
just playing with it because each compost pile is totally different depending on what your inputs
What's
are
in
into
it?
that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was
You've really got to
desperate to
play with it.
start it like this week because we built the compost bay. But again, like we were leaving for Easter and we've got to turn it while we're gone. So I'm kind of just delaying everything at the moment. So
Yeah,
my
I
Easter
think
garden, I mean,
put
my autumn
it
garden will
together
start
and
after Easter.
yeah, I'd say put it together and turn it when you come back. I mean,
You reckon?
yeah, absolutely. It's not an exact science. I mean, I've had piles that I've put together and then like I've left for 2 weeks because I've just not had time to turn it. And then I've
Okay.
had other piles that I've meticulously monitored the heat and I've turned it at the right times and I've done all the right thing.
Mm.
And you know what? Compost turns out great either way. Yes,
Yeah.
it's ideal if you keep an eye on the temperature and you keep it between your desired temperatures so that you're not burning off the good bacteria as well as the bad stuff. But again, at the end of the day, it is all it's all organic matter and it's all going to break down. And then if even if you did overcook it, then you can just leave it sit for a longer period of time, let the
Yeah.
worms get in there and you could add some, once it's cooked and it's cool, add some biocast to it. And, like
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
things that you
True.
can then do to be able to speed up that, all the life that's in the compost as well. So,
Yeah.
I'd
Yeah.
say
Good point.
just get in there and do it. Yeah. Don't wait. You'd be waiting for forever, honestly. If we
I
waited
know.
for like perfect times to do stuff, we'd do nothing. Like
Yeah. I
nothing's
mean
ever
that.
a time.
I mean that balance of like, do I just plant some stuff for fun and get it in there, or do I do it properly and do like a pioneer crop of cover crops and then build up the soils, and keep going? But I think I'll have to do a mix, try and get some beds like that for spring maybe, and then just have a couple beds that we start planting in. Because, yeah, I
Yeah.
really want to get some stuff in the ground.
And I think that's the smart way to do it is have a combination because to try and do it again, we've had these conversations a lot because you and I are very similar. We want to do it all at the same time. It's like, right, we're
Yeah.
inspired, let's go, we want to get this done. But you can have everything and you can do everything, you just can't have it and do it all at once.
Mm.
And so
And
having that balance is great.
yeah, and I really need to get some windbreaks in. Just even having the mint and the basil that I bought, it's been sitting underneath the van in a pot, and it's already growing like sideways because they must just get this kind of prevailing wind. And yeah, we're definitely gonna get smashed. Our veggies will get smashed with that if we don't kind of start thinking about um, a bit of wind protection too, or even something temporary until we can get our hedge established. So
Something that we learnt with wind protection. I mean, I don't. We're totally digressing off our topic here. We will come back to it, but
it's about the garden. I'm still prepping for my autumn
what
garden, just with wind.
just with wind, exactly. So what we found is what we planted a whole heap of photinias or red robins, and they were going to be our windbreak. But what we didn't allow for was that when we planted these beautiful small plants, is that they needed the wind protection first to be able to then protect others from the wind. So through observation, we looked at the ones that performed really well and the ones that are still tiny and get hammered, and where they were in relation to the shed. So then what we did is, not for that section, I've still got to do that, but for a different section which faces into the orchard, and we also made that the fence for one of our chicken runs, is we just put up a big shade cloth fence. So we just wired it up like we would a normal mesh fence, but we just didn't put the mesh on it. We just put the wire runs, and then we use zip ties. So I tried to use the fancy shade cloth clips. Don't even bother, like the pain in the ass. And they don't work. So zip ties have worked a treat. And we've had howling winds, and this thing hasn't moved. We thought, is it going to get shredded? Is it going to be too much of a sail and catch the wind too much? It has not, but we zip tied it the shit out of it, I have to say. But do you know what? It's still taut. It works a treat. It provides shade for from the western sun for some of the trees in the orchard, but it's provided a huge wind shelter, a windbreak, and that's allowing the fruit trees to grow. So what we're going to do is do the same along the fence line where we've got our red robins. And we're going to put that in there, and then we're going to be filling that out with all natives. So that's where we're going to be putting that list together for all the native trees. And, we have a lot of the, casuarinas and acacias and all sorts that we're going to be putting through there as well. But before we do that, because lesson learned, we're putting up a big shade cloth windbreak there too. So it's going to save a lot of heartache. So if I can impress that on you today, definitely do that, because it is so... Well, it's so distressing when you go through and you plant all of these plants and
the money.
Yeah.
Well, our fence is going to be star pickets with wood in between, like every second or third one, and it will have a wire mesh on it already because the dogs and getting in and out, escaping. So we'll probably just maybe do that then. That sounds like a really good idea.
Yeah,
because we're so exposed. There's no houses around. There's no trees. There's no sheds. Like, we're the only house there, or only people living there. So maybe that's something to look into. Exposed. The tip shop will probably have a whole heap of it too. Actually, they will. So
we just fashioned our own extension too. Like, so we did our our standard 900 fence, and then we just had some old metal tent poles that we reclaimed, and we just tech screwed those onto the top of the star pickets, extended it up so that the fence is, I think, 2.1 high, so that would actually create quite a long projection of windbreak and shade as well. So we did a bit of calculation there, but it's turned out well.
I like that idea. And so what else are you doing to prep for your autumn garden and winter beds?
So, well, in the same vein of, say, the cover crops, we're actually putting a lot of chicken forage in this year.
Cool.
So, because we've sort of changed out the way, our coops.
Explain that a little bit. I love how you're doing that.
So, well, that's changed again, even since you were here.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to move our annual beds. So they're going up towards the orchard. And we're just going to make those areas where our annual beds were into just a full area for the ducks and the chickens. But what we're doing is those beds that are currently either were our annual beds or are currently our annual beds will just become an area for chicken forage. So we've got integrated coops. So we've got, if I can kind of give a visual and explain it, we've got one building that we've built, which is about, I'd say about 5 meters by 2.4. Excuse me. We've got like a little potting shed in the middle of that. And on the ends are our chicken coops. Now, those chicken coops have automatic doors. So they've got dusk dawn automatic doors, and they open into runs. one opens into a run, one's just the ducks at the moment that have just got free range for everything. And then, so they open into a chicken run, and then off those chicken runs, we actually have garden beds. So we have a gate system where we can either keep gates closed or keep them open to allow chickens into different garden beds at different times. So what we're going to do with those beds is just put chicken forage in there. And that way they can have access to, say, one bed that's got forage that's grown in there. They can have a good pick through that, turn it over, while we've got another one closed off and growing. So we've got this system. And what that means is that they're getting a really good pick. They're getting things that they like. They're getting lots of worms and bugs and lots of greens. But at the same time, by then trampling it down, eating it, pooping it back out, scratching it all around, they're creating great soil for us. So, and we don't really have to do anything apart from seed it, give it a bit of a water, protect it from the chickens until we're ready for them to go in there, and then let them, go gangbusters on it.
And so that means paddock rotation with cattle,
It is, yeah. It's exactly like that. And there'll be some things in there that will grow that we might pick because the chickens may not get to it because they'll have lots of choice. So there might be some beans or peas or silver beet or something like that we'll be able to harvest for ourselves. But it's not the intention of what we're doing. So we'll have our own. We've got our own kitchen garden going down near the house. Plus we'll have our bigger annual beds up. Just in a little bit of a better area aspect-wise and access-wise. I think it'll work really well. So we're going to be putting things in this year in autumn. So we're putting them in over the next couple of weeks. So we're going to be putting, we've got some clover, we've got some alfalfa. Alfalfa is really good. It's high in protein. We'll put some broad beans in or fava beans. So the chickens love those. So we might get a few of those for ourselves, but that'll be for them. Peas, we'll put brassicas in. So things like mustard, kale. So they're the faster growing ones. We're not too much worried about like the slower growing, like cauliflowers and things like that. I'll put some sprouting broccoli in because they love that too. And I've got some oats, and what have I got? I've got oats, I've got lucerne, and I got some cowpea, but I'm not putting that in this time of year. That'll go in spring. From a garage sale. So from a grazier, local grazier who, said, no, we don't need these anymore. We're out of the market, whatever. It was like, $3 a 25 kilo bag. And I was like, wow, I'll take that. So even if we get like a 10% germination rate, it really doesn't matter for $3 a bag. So we're just going to throw a ton of that in this year. It's been sitting in the shipping container, so I'm hoping that I haven't cooked, but we'll see how we go. But we'll put silver beet, we'll put spinach in. I've got heaps of borage, so I collect borage seeds, so put a heap of that in. They love that. The problem, I won't worry about putting comfrey in because we've got that growing elsewhere, and that just doesn't have a chance. If chickens are left to forage on that, you won't have any left. They'll go nuts. And then, we'll put some root crops in as well. So we'll put, daikon radish in. We'll put some other radishes, turnips. They can have them. I do not like turnips.
Yeah, I don't really cook with it either.
Do you know what? I grew them one year.
In a soup, maybe, but I don't eat enough to warrant.
Terrible. Hate them. No. Do not like turnips. But I grew a heap one year because I thought I had all these, I can do this. I'm going to grow turnips. And they went so well. They were one of my most successful crops. And I'm like, I'll try them roasted. I'll try them in a soup. I'll try them. No. They ended up just getting cooked up, mashed up. My house smelt like one big fart, and they went back to the chickens. I was like, oh, this is gross. We all have our things, don't we? So we'll do that. We're not, we might throw, I've got some carrot seeds that someone gave me last year, so we might throw those in as well, but they're not for the carrots, they're for the tops, for the chickens. So, we don't have much success here because of, we're on clay and we just haven't developed our soil to be suitable for actually growing carrots for their roots. So we'll put, those types of things in and nurture it a little bit, actually, care for it, make sure that it's growing. But, the soil that's going to produce once we've got that system in place will be absolutely phenomenal. And then we'll either decide on whether we will then just plant back into that bed directly, like we might use that for melons or pumpkins or something like that
Yeah.
in summer,
Hmm.
or whether we actually sort of export some of that good soil out and use that to top up our other annual
Right.
beds. And because we're
Yeah.
going to be putting hoop houses up as well for shade. And yeah, so it's all
Yeah.
part of the system, but we think that that's going to work better
Exciting.
for us than trying to struggle through in poorly placed, because that was originally the annual beds. And I put it, for anyone listening, we've got a huge tree on the property, massive gum. So I went and put my growing beds. This is before permaculture and before I really um, had a good understanding of bigger scale gardening. I've done lots of small scale, great. But yeah, I went and placed my beds in the totally wrong spot. I put them on the western side of this tree, so they got no morning sun and they got hammered by the westerly sun and the westerly wind. So it was like I gave these beds zero chance. But they still
Yeah.
produced. Like, that's the irony. Like, they still did produce, but yeah, we need to do better.
And what are you planning for your annual beds for autumn and winter?
So we're not going to do. We've got to make the autumn, the annual beds. So because we're
Yeah.
moving those beds, so we're not going to be planting anything because we won't have the beds ready.
Oh, okay.
But we will be like you. We're going to be doing the project of building the beds and start building the soil up
Yeah.
in those
And so
beds. So
your aim would be to have them ready for spring then?
that's our aim. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
That is going to be the ideal. So
Hmm.
fingers crossed, I can get my pull my finger out and get it all done. So we've
And
got that and more projects. Hey.
have you got much of your summer crops still in, or how are they kind of going?
So, well, the cucumbers were a bust because pollination was down.
Right.
We've still got melons and pumpkins coming on, but very minimal because, again, pollination was right down.
Mm.
The tomatoes are done. They got hammered in the last heat wave. So we just basically picked off everything that we could.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, we've still got some greens, chugging along. We've got a little bit of lettuce and, our
Yeah.
silver beets still doing really well. Our perennial spinach, that type of thing. That's doing really well. But yeah, it's sort of just enough to keep us picking in the garden.
Yeah, nice.
Um, but yeah, again, it was hard when you put your garden beds in the wrong spot and then you just battle through and go, I can do this. I'll make it work. And then you go, no, you know
Yeah.
what? It's a pretty gnarly summer. Let's not.
I think it's like really good to sit back each season, each growing season, and go, okay, what worked, what didn't,
Yeah.
and take that time in between seasons to actually make notes and to try and write it down if you can, because by the time next year rolls around, you will forget about what did and didn't work
Yes.
and how it all went. And just really reflect, sit down with those, in the back of your head, those permaculture principles, thinking about, what's it teaching me? What can I learn from these things? What are they showing me? How can I integrate them better? Where are the edges? Just really kind of go through each of the principles and kind of think about it through those lenses as much as you can and say, okay, well, what would I do differently? What would I do the same? What didn't work because I did the wrong thing or didn't make the best decision, or what else might have affected that going wrong or right, and kind of build off that so that you kind of can remember for next year and plan better.
That's a really, really good point. And that's something that I've been a little bit slack with. I've done it in spats and spurts, but really haven't been consistent with diarising. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
terrible at putting things in a diary.
so I think that's something that you and I need to do together. Then we need to we'll hold each other
Make a
accountable to
pact.
diarising. Well, I'm still waiting.
I
I ordered
like,
the 3-year diary from
oh,
Diggers, but I'm still
yes.
waiting. I don't know. So if
Oh,
anyone from Diggers is ever listening, like, what's going on? It's
I
been
want to
like
get that
3
one
weeks.
too. Because from what I can see online, it's got each, like, year one, year two, year three on the same page. So you can see the seasons side by side. Is
Yeah.
that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, which I think is really cool. Instead of having to flick through all your pages and flick back through them, you've got that week side by
And
side, or that
you
season's.
can actually
Yeah.
see exactly what's been
I
happening and
think
what
it's
you've done or not
clever.
done. And yeah, so yeah, I'm really keen
Mm.
to get that. So yeah, someone needs to send that to me, please.
Well,
Okay.
I've been, instead of
I ordered it 3
writing,
weeks ago.
oh gosh, that's a long time to wait. Instead of diarising stuff, because there's not much to kind of write about, and I think my observations kind of pulled in many different directions at the moment, we've been trying to sit down in the morning and have a cup of coffee and look and observe, but it's the same time of day every day kind of thing. What I've been trying to do is take lots of photos, because I was really inspired by Brett and how many photos he has of his property from
Yes,
when he
that's
first
good.
started. So we got the drone up the first week we got there before we did anything, and got lots of videos and photos up with the drone, just so we can really see a comparison of how things change, and we can do that observation retrospectively. Like, we don't have to do it in the moment too. So I've been doing that a lot. Just taking photos as much as I can of what's currently there. And when we get back, we're away this weekend on a little holiday. But when we get back, I'm going to do the same thing again before we put the fence up. And then again, after we've had all the trees kind of trimmed at the back that need trimming, that are unsafe, because I think that'll be a really good way of documenting and journaling, if you like, the changes that we're seeing.
That'd be amazing. And it's so good to
Mm,
be able to, yeah, visually go back and go, oh yeah, that's right. I remember that was, that bit was over there, or that tree was only, a meter tall, and now look at over here, it's grown. That
mm,
one's done well, that one hasn't. Okay, what's the difference? Like, what's the
yeah.
change in context with that? Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I'm really trying to focus on until we kind of get our beds and I can um, write write more. But the other thing, actually, which we've been talking a lot about, is the indigenous calendar. And
Yes. Yeah.
we've got 6 seasons in ours. So March now is the beginning of the next indigenous season. And I found a really good resource for our area. It gives you an overview of all of the six and kind of hallmark things to spot, like this tree's flowering and this animal's out and this is when the wind is. But then it actually goes into a lot of depth in this big document about all the little tiny changes that have been noticed and documented by people, and the kind of very seasonal things that you'll see in the Clarence Valley. So I've been really kind of looking into that and making a lot of mental notes as to what I need to kind of take notice of and what I need to consider that will be happening in our area during these kind of mini seasons. I think for, Europeans, mini seasons, but the indigenous seasons that are local to our area. So I'm really excited about that, and I'm actually learning so much
And
from
here you
reading
are
this
saying
document.
there's not much going on and there's not much to diarise.
Yeah. Well, it's not my observations, I guess. I'm kind of reading other people's observations and trying to soak that all in so I can be more conscious of them, because I
Yeah.
think it's very easy to be unconscious about the changes that are happening when you can't physically see them all the time, or yeah, you just notice nuanced as noticing those things. We're not living in relationship with the land as much anymore. So yeah,
So you're
it's
looking
been
for
really
those
interesting.
triggers to be able to go, oh yeah, that's
Totally.
right, those birds are
Yeah,
out, or yeah, that tree's
totally.
flowering, or yeah, those
Yeah.
changes are occurring. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I think creating some rituals around that. So, when that tree is flowering, that's when I do start my compost to prep for my bed, so that each year I kind of fall into a ritual that's in line with these indigenous seasons. I think that would be really lovely.
You're not looking at a
Um,
date on a calendar going, oh, it's that date I
yeah,
now have to start. Yep.
yeah, yeah. So I think that would be really lovely to kind of try and get more in tune with that and recognize that in our area a little bit more, and yeah, go with the flow of that season rather than it's autumn, I need to plant my garlic, I need to do this. Yeah,
So
just
yeah,
being more in touch.
working with nature. Go figure. Go figure that we
I
would do
know, right? Who would have thought that would have worked?
so much. It feels good too because it's the connection that you have, and it
Yeah,
feels right as opposed to, yeah, this is the date, so okay, it's the it's the 1st of March, it's autumn, we have to do this, and it's like,
yeah.
well, no, like we don't have to do anything, but
Mm-mm.
it can feel like you're sort of pushing it uphill a little bit, like if I started
Yeah.
doing everything for my autumn activities on the first, well, that would just be, a big fail forward.
Mm.
Because you learn, so you're still
Yeah.
moving forward. There's still learning, but instead of focusing on that is working with what those natural cycles are, and they're going to be different each year because
Yeah.
Mother Nature doesn't run to a date. So
Clock.
yeah,
Yeah. And
Right.
then what else are we kind of prepping for in winter? I think besides the gardens, there's obviously a time of rest for a lot of people in their winter gardens where you can
Yeah.
kind of do all those odd jobs around, whether it's fixing fences or sorting and cleaning and prepping and I think fixing your tools, those kinds of things. It's really
Yeah.
good
Your
to be doing
maintenance
this time of
things.
year. Yeah, we need to
And
clean
that,
out. We've got a tiny lawn locker and we need to sort it like big time. But yeah, I'm sure
oh,
you've got a lot more of things than
we
we do to.
we got a lot. We got two shipping containers to sort through. We've got the middle of the shipping containers, which has been a storage area for like we've got an old camper um, that like we've pulled all the canvas and everything out, but we want to convert the trailer itself into a firefighting trailer. So we're going to
Oh yeah,
get our son to fabricate some reinforcement there and make sure that it can carry 1,000 litre IBC tank that'll be pretty
cool.
much full, plus a pump and all the
Yeah,
firefighting equipment. And then
yeah,
that way we can keep it here on our property, but we can also let our neighbours know that hey, if you need it, you come in and grab it. Like it's going to
yeah,
be accessible to.
yeah,
Um, to anyone who's going to need it as well, because our property interconnects with the neighbours. Even though the way we fenced it internally, technically you can't drive through it. We'd have to pull fences down. But in the event of an emergency, it wouldn't take more than a minute to rip out a few star pickets and lay a fence down.
yeah.
Like they're
Or
only
cut some
really
wires. Yeah,
yeah, that's it. Like it's a really light internal fence, chicken fence. So we're not too worried about that. But yeah, so that's interconnected. But yeah, that'll be the idea. Is it becomes a bit of a neighbourhood, community resource if it's needed for our surrounding area, and
yeah,
also if we need it as well. So that's been stored in there, and we've just got some bigger items that we need to sort through and get into the shed. We need to clean out the shed because at the moment, the way it is, because it's a really old shed, it's got holes all through it, like it needs a lot of love and a lot of work. But also, every time it rains, the back of the shed, the way it sort of sits on the land is that we just have this tsunami of water that comes through over the slab and then into the stable and the dirt side of the shed. Um,
yeah,
which it really isn't a problem at the moment, the work is for what we use it for, but we want that to be a really functional space, so we need
yeah.
to start planning for retaining up the back and making sure that we're pulling that water away from the shed and actually soaking it into the
Mm,
ground away from the shed. So
yeah,
yeah, there's a lot of things that we're working on, but yeah, for us this winter will be cleaning, sorting, tidying, um,
yeah,
consolidating, and then planning for okay, what do we, what are our things that we're going to be doing,
yeah.
sort of the end of winter and into spring. Yeah,
It's a great time to do earthworks and those kinds of things too. I think where you have a chance to see where water goes and things like that, and then plan for any major earthworks or swales and things like that if people are looking at doing
yeah.
those kinds of things too.
Yeah, we've been thinking about that. We've got, we were going to just do long swales along our orchard, and that was going to be retrospective. So
Mm,
it means that we've got to get a very small piece of machinery in because I was not jigging all of that by hand. I'm
mm,
not that keen. But we've got to get a very small piece of machinery in because of the gates it's got to get through and be able to get in between
yeah.
the existing trees. But what I've sat with when I've been sitting and watching is that that may not be the best option. And I still haven't decided yet which way we're going to go.
Okay.
But I'm considering doing either like a half moon or boomerang type swales,
Yeah, little
so
mini swales.
which is a mini swale. So yeah, instead of having
Yeah.
that swale on the front and then your mound at the back, it's actually a swale that's at the back of the tree which catches the water and then sinks it towards the back. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, so we're just sitting with that. Well, I say we, me, is just sitting with that and observing,
Mm,
how things behave and putting little test swales in just to see how that water moves through and is that being captured? Is it sinking? Is it just being captured because we've got so much clay? What does that, then look like? Or are we just
mm.
are we creating mozzie puddles? So yeah, we're just sort of playing with that at the moment. But
Yeah.
I have no doubt that
I
there will
was
be some digging in winter.
I was reading about also like you can backfill. I don't think it was swales, but it was talking about in between garden beds, digging
Mm-hmm.
up the paths a little bit and putting down compost, not compost, sorry, mulch and wood chips. So you've got a big, pathway of wood chips. So that's where the soil used to sit. You dig it down, you put all the mulch in, to act as water sinks, and also to
Yeah.
prevent water just sitting there and for mozzies and things like that. So I don't know if it would work with swales or mini swales, but yeah, that option
Yeah.
of, creating a
Absolutely. Yeah.
little
It's basically,
pit
yeah, like
but
a
filling
sink
it
or a
in.
sponge. Like it just, yeah,
Yeah.
it stops the water from just sitting and pooling and then either, yeah, creating mozzie ponds or just evaporating then, the next time you get a little bit of sun or wind, that water disappears. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's one of the trials that we're doing as well is looking at, yeah, because we've got some wood chip, like, yeah, do we put wood chip in there? And this is sort of, yeah, half broken down wood chip. It's not fresh. I wouldn't put
Mm.
fresh in there because you just end up with nitrogen drawdown issues. But some of the trees are pretty established, so they'd probably cope with that a little bit if it was a little bit further back. But yeah, we're definitely looking at that as well. So yeah,
Mm.
there's lots of different ways to do it. It's just deciding which is going to be the best way to do
Yeah.
it and the easiest for us to maintain. So initially
Yeah.
do it and maintain as well because
It's a
we're
good
not
point, because
not getting
it,
any younger. So yeah, what's going to be the
and
easiest moving forward?
and also just the maintenance with your lifestyle, like making sure you make the right
Yeah,
choices in your beds to be able to go, okay, is this the right lifestyle choice too? Like, do I have the time? For instance, with mandala beds, we've had this conversation before.
yeah,
Do I have the time and capacity to move them constantly with the integrated chickens, or is it easier to do nice, simple raised beds that I can maintain easily and I can add a hinged hoop if I want to, or so making those decisions so that, it works with your routine and your lifestyle and obviously, like you said, your age or your ability or whatever it is.
mhm,
So yeah, I think you can get very caught up in the glamour of what a garden looks like or trendy ways of gardening without actually thinking about the logistics of how that looks in
exactly.
your day-to-day life.
Exactly. And it's nice to have something that feels good as well. Like that definitely plays a part of it of, what feels good for you, what looks good for you and makes you want to be in your garden.
Mm,
But yeah,
mm,
if you focus just on that without the practicalities, without the systems in place, without
yeah.
understanding how you uh, perform in the garden, how you move through the garden and how you interrelate with it, then yeah, you just have something that's pretty for 5 minutes and then in 6 months it's turned to shit.
But that's the beauty of the permaculture systems. Like, it is systems based thinking. You think about what your needs are, what you already have. You think about your aim, your long term plan. You go through all those steps. You do a site sector. You think about how you move through your garden, through the land, what your routine. All these things are factored into making it. So I think coming at it from that permaculture way of thinking and systems based thinking of permaculture, you really get a good outcome at the end when you are planning your garden and your spaces.
Oh, absolutely. Much
Mm.
better than let's just throw it in and see what happens. Yeah.
Let's put it on the western side of my gum tree.
Yeah. Like,
Ah,
it's so stupid. I've been growing veggies for years, but it's so interesting that when
it's
you do
so
something
easy to
on a
do.
very small
Yeah.
scale in a backyard and then you scale it up and you don't necessarily consider bigger
Mm,
picture factors. Like, I look at it now and just go, what the freaking hell was I thinking? Like,
mm,
that was like a dumb gardener moment. But it also then made me stop and realize, hey, where have I done that with other things as well? Um,
yeah.
and so helped me to actually take that step back and go, all right, before we go doing anything else, let's have a little bit more of a think about this. And that was,
Yeah.
pre-permaculture. But I've limped the beds through, limped it through because it's like, well, we've kind of got the integrated systems there, so it'll be right, it'll be right. And then yeah, it was, yeah, the last several months, it's like, yeah, this isn't
So
going to be
funny.
right. This is just not working. And every time I've gone to do something in there, I'm like, no, I'm just not going to build anything or amend anything yet because just doesn't, it's just not right. So yeah, once I
And
made the
how easy it
decision,
is to like hang on to that. Like,
oh,
no,
yeah,
it's gonna work.
yeah,
Like,
it was, yeah, you got kind of almost like, yeah, got to prove it to yourself or the universe or something that, you know, I'm going against the grain, but it'll still
I
work. It'll be
know.
okay.
It's
Got
like
to hang
not
on to being
accepting
wrong.
that not accepting that feedback and regulation that the garden and the environment's giving you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the garden was giving me feedback of yeah, woman, you're killing me here. You know, so I need to accept. But yeah, it's been interesting. Well, I mean, it always is. I mean, that's part of the reason
Yeah.
that, we started this podcast too, because it is all those discoveries that we're having. They are incredible. They're interesting to us. I don't know if they're interesting to anyone else,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's great though when you have these conversations and people go, yeah, I had the same thing, or oh, I did something similar, but in this situation, and you
Yeah.
learn from each other, and you go, oh, okay, well, oh, Joe did that shit. Well, okay, I'm not going to do that. I'll think about this a little bit more, and
Yeah.
have just have pause before taking action, like the wind. It's like, yeah, definitely, yeah, wind shelter up before you even start thinking about planting your wind shelters. Yeah.
Yeah. And that hierarchy of influence too, what you can change and what you can't change. You always want to get in there and do the soil and plant the things, but that's so low on that scale of permanence. Things like, water and structures and access and the wind and the climate. They're the things that you can't really change easily or have no influence over. So thinking about those things before you go worrying about the soil in the first place, because that can be changed quite quickly, really.
Yeah, oh,
So yeah.
absolutely. I mean, it just takes, a couple of weeks to whack some beds in and start to build soil. It takes several months to start, to get good results for soil, but it doesn't take that long to really get things going. And there's always ways to be able to fast track that. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's about it that we have to touch on, unless there's anything else that you want
No,
to bring up.
I think that's it. That's what we're doing. I'd love to hear about what other people are doing in autumn, because again, it's all
Yes.
contextual, and you're subtropical, I'm warm temperate. This summer has felt like subtropical. I can tell you that the humidity that
Oh,
we've had, holy shit.
my mum's
Um,
in Tassie, and I spoke to her yesterday, and it was -5 overnight.
really? Wow, already?
Really?
Holy
Yes.
crap!
Uh huh.
We got down to 22 last night. Like that, it
I
was
know.
still
I said
pretty
to her,
warm.
I reckon it got to 20 last night where we were, and I was like freezing, and I'm like, I'm not getting out of bed in the morning. She was at -5.
Oh,
Oh
that's
man,
fresh. But no, I
in a
think
motorhome.
I'd love to hear from others about what they've got
Definitely.
planned or what they
Yeah.
do in autumn, and they've
Yeah.
done for years and years that works for them. So yeah, if anyone would like to share, that would be absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
All right, well, I think
Lovely.
that's it for this week.
So that's the end of another episode. Don't forget to jump into our Facebook group to let us know what you are doing for your autumn garden. Thanks for listening. We hope that this episode gave you some inspiration, confidence, and has helped you in your Permy journey.
Head to the show notes for all the resources mentioned in today's episode. And if you like the podcast, please remember to subscribe, rate, and share. And if you didn't, then that's okay. We still love you anyway. Bye.
Bye.